everyone, I'm doing a book review today on the 5th season by NK Jemisin. I hope that's how you pronounce the name. And this was part of a buddy read for Tome Top-a-thon, which I wasn't really partaking in, but I happened to pick this up and then someone on my Twitter feed turned around and said, "Hi, I'm reading this, anybody want a buddy read with it?" I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll buddy read with you." And I think actually it was a really good way to get through this book, because we all had a lot of feelings about it. And I have had trouble trying to review this book without actually spoiling it completely, because it's a very interesting book and it's a very interesting read. So hopefully I'm going to not spoil anything at all for you, but make you actually want to pick up this book and read it. It is down as a tome depending which version you read. My copy is actually paged at 463, but I do have quite a few appendices in here and excerpts from other books. So other people had their version down as 500 pages, hence the tome. But I will say it read very well. The chapters were longer rather than shorter, but they didn't feel it. And the way the author actually wrote the story was extremely clever and quite unexpected for most of the book, actually. But there we go. To start off with, the biggest problem we all had was one of the points of view was written in second person present tense, which took quite a while to get my head around, at least. It's not a format I read that often. I have enough issues with first person present tense. So the fact it was suddenly you, and I say, well, last time I read a book like this, it was a choose your own adventure book. So it took a little while, but I got the hang of it. And it certainly made that voice the most unique out of all of them. There are 3 points of view being told in this story. I can't tell you any more than that. And each one has got their own distinct voice, which you'll understand why I can't tell you much about them when you read it. It really is one of those books where you just jump in and read it and go, oh yeah, because it is very, very cleverly told. This is book 1 in a trilogy, and I'm going to have to get the second one purely because of the way this one finished. It wasn't the way it had been built up or anything. It was the last word of the story that just made me go, what the... And so I need the second book, because it's like, having just got my head around what I'd read, it was suddenly going to go and do something else. I was like, okay. There are signs, there are chapters in here that deal with emotional and physical abuse, and they're hard to read. They're meant to be hard to read, to get across the message that this is how people are controlled. And I have to admit, those chapters are hard to read. I did need 5 minutes afterwards, and I'm glad I was buddy reading, because then we could all sit and actually discuss how we felt about it. It's certainly one of those books that makes you want to talk about issues and people in general. It is a sci-fi book with some fantasy elements to it. I'm not sure if it's a dystopian or not yet. I'm still working on that one, so please let me know. You put me out my misery. But I think it's a very imaginative way of telling this story, and it's a very clever way of pointing out prejudice and abuse and control, particularly of a certain people. It's one of those stories that deals quite heavily with that without being bogged down in it. It is part of the story, and there are shocking moments in it when you actually realise what is going on, but it never gets in the way of the enjoyment of the plot. For me, I think this story is very much about coming to terms with who you are, accepting who you are, rising up and living, and fighting for your life, really, in amongst this great cataclysm. This book basically starts off this is the end of the world. This is how the end of the world begins. And that's something to bear in mind. Something else to bear in mind, which really struck me early on actually, is the dedication. I don't know if you can read that or not. For all those who have to fight for the respect that everyone else is given without question. And I think about chapter 4 when that hit home and made me sit and stop and actually go, whoa, I get it. I totally get it. So that is a good definition of what this story is about. But again, I'm really sorry, I can't tell you pretty much anything about it, other than I really want everyone to read it because I think it's a very important book to read. It's a very accessible sci-fi book as well to read. It's not too heavy, everything's very presentable, and it's a very clever way of telling a story. And I'm really excited to see where it's going to go in the next one, because I'm really intrigued to see how this tale is going to carry on and how the storytelling is going to carry on. But there we are. So, the 5th season, have you read it? Please let me know what you thought down below. But again, please don't give away spoilers, because I really believe it's one of those books you should just go in and read without knowing hardly anything. I will try and do possibly a fuller review on my book blog filled with spoilers, so keep an eye out for that. But I've got to get my head around what I actually want to say as well, properly. So give me time, please. But you can find my social media links in the description box as well. Goodreads, Twitter and Instagram. Come and say hi. I don't bite. As always, thank you very much for watching and happy reading.